I'm Mason, and this is Cara, and we're the hosts of Expert Secrets Revealed, Conversations in Health and Fitness, also known as the ESR Show, sponsored by Centrax Nutrition. It's a show built around exceptional people and ideas that educate, entertain, and inspire. And today's guest is Lorraine Bosse-Smith. She's the author of 9 different books that have been published, and her latest is called Defy Your Diagnosis. And it's all about her fit formula that helps people overcome and deal with the stress of, lost loved ones, career changes, disease diagnosis that, could be catastrophic. I mean, serious things. And she's an expert in this area. She also happens to be an FAA certified fitness professional and personal trainer. And we're really, really excited to have her on. She's a keynote speaker, and people all over the world.
What does she not do?
She does a lot, and we're really, really happy to have her on here today. So, Lorraine, welcome.
Thank you. Wonderful to be with you guys. I appreciate the opportunity to share really an important message, especially for this time.
Now, Lorraine, you are known to be a powerhouse in ideas, solutions, inspirations to others. And you wrote a book called Defy Your Diagnosis. And you actually, from what I read, you were encouraged not to release this book, but you did anyway. Can you give us that story?
I did. And the joke as a writer, this book took 2 years and 2 weeks. It was difficult to go back, relive the hard things of life, and then, pulling out the principles. And really until I had the courage to truly say what happened in my life, defy your diagnosis, that's when I finished up in 2 weeks. And then I'm told, I think we should just hold off on releasing it. Marketing people said, COVID, it'll blow by in a few months, so let's just wait. And something inside me said, no, this is exactly why the book needs to come out. We are facing fear of epic proportions, and our health is going to be significant in how we maneuver through all of this. So I chose to say, despite all the obstacles, once again, that were facing me, I said, we're moving forward. We're getting this message out.
If you don't mind, I hope I'm not being too personal, but I know that there are members in the audience that are really struggling with things. And would you mind sharing what crisis you went through so that people know that you can relate to what they're going through? I hope it's not too personal to ask, but would you mind sharing some of that?
Well, and this is the thing about the book. I get very personal. I share my stories with the hope of people being able to resonate, to connect at least at 1 point or 2 points. They may not have had everything. So what happened to me is I went 6 years with my health declining. Here I am, a fitness instructor, personal trainer, eating right, and my health kept getting worse and worse. After 6 long years, to a point where I couldn't even hold a glass of water. I did not have the strength, and I couldn't walk up a set of stairs. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. And I was told my case was so severe, it basically replicated in my DNA that I was predicted I'd be in a wheelchair and it would overcome. It can kill your brain. It can attack your heart. And I chose not to accept that and created these principles that served me very well to say, nope, I'm going to define this for myself, and looked to overcome that. And then fast forward through the victory of that, my immune system then was in such a fight mode. People can relate with this. Then their immune system goes wacky. So mine did, and it started to attack my joints, which is called rheumatoid arthritis. Again, our society will tell you there is no cure. And I am a witness to tell you it's possible. You can reset your immune system. From 2010, I am free and clear. I didn't take any of the dangerous drugs that are 78% increase in cancer because it's shutting down the very part of your body that fights. So can you see how important it is for us to look at these things, especially when we're combating new viruses and new things in the world that, can make us sick. So it's that whole emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual components of our health that allow us to fight the battle.
Out of curiosity, actually, I
Mhm.
happen to be very familiar with Lyme disease, and I do know people that have had it, and she's not understating that. I'm curious, 'cause I'm reading different statistics that show it takes up to over 10 different doctors typically before it gets diagnosed correctly, because there are so many, what's the term I want to use, co-infections, and it has the symptoms of so many other things that
Yes.
it's very, very easy for doctors to miss. How many
Yes.
doctors did it take before you finally found
Well,
out that that's what you had?
Yeah, 6 years of multiple doctors, multiple, months at a time. So I'd say I was probably up in the 30, 40 range.
That doesn't
And
surprise me.
I'm healthy, in the sense of what I look like, but I could barely walk in. At some point, I couldn't even wear normal shoes. My feet had gotten so big from the, inflammation. And again, so people would just say, well, I guess you have cancer. I guess you have this. I guess you have that. They would just get so frustrated. They'd tell me I had something I didn't have. And the blood work would say I didn't have. And it's part of my book is what I call the healing trinity. And it's what saved me is, and it's a mindset, regardless if it's your health or your relationship or your career, it's three parts. The first is we've got to align ourselves with the right people. So like you said, I finally had to have a doctor that listened to me and said, I agree with you. I think this might be Lyme disease. Let's go down that path and let's find out. Well, the test that we have in our country is bogus and doesn't work. So you have to pay. Of course, it's not part of your insurance to get the real test. Finally,
That's true. And a real one, and a real good one's going to cost you close to about $900, but it's going to be accurate.
Yes.
But it's going to be accurate.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And here's another statistic that scares me and irritates me and angers me at the same time is we're up to now, for people who work in this field, we're up to 53% of all. This is all autoimmune. This is RA. This is lupus. This is MS. This is depression. All of these things are actually Lyme disease undiagnosed.
I believe that.
The drug companies make billions with the B dollars off of sick people. And so we're told this, we have commercials telling us this. So we're having to combat this, but we can find the right people to partner with. And then second, we've got to be willing to do what it takes. I mean, I had to, even in my own case, create protocols because at the time, there was nothing that was telling me I could reset my immune system and beat RA, but I chose to believe it. I claimed it. And I created a protocol. And interesting enough, here we are 2021, and I'm starting to see that protocol that I designed for myself being used now to help people who are outside of traditional medicine, who are saying, I don't want to take their drugs. I want to actually get healed, not medicated, right? And then the third part is just the God factor. And without my faith and without leaning in and trusting that I was designed for better, I wouldn't have had that strength and that courage to get through. So I really encourage people to remember that Trinity. It takes all three.
Well, first of all, I salute you because, like I said, I know people
Absolutely.
personally,
I
actually
do
quite a
too.
few of them that
Yeah.
that have had Lyme disease,
Mhm.
and everything you described. Some of them described anxiety and brain fog, and
Well, it's a whole diet change too. So I know with some of my friends who have it, they cannot eat red meat. They cannot, there's so many different things. I mean, one of my best friends out in DC, she cannot have it. Her whole diet had to change. And it's so crazy that her whole life has changed now. And she has to watch every single day, no milk. It's really, it's wow. I mean, when she told me this, and she's kind of overweight now too, so she lost a lot of weight, so that was good for her. But besides that, I mean, that was the bright side of it. But every day she struggles with that, every single day.
And I will tell you that I eradicated it. I do not have it in my system. But just like cancer, you try to kill it without killing the host. It dramatically altered me. So I now live with some of the consequences of that. And again, my principles continue to support me, to help me, press on despite, what life has thrown at me, and to say, hey, I'm still standing. I am still here. I've beaten the odds. I have a few weird things as a, result of that, but I defied what they told me should happen.
Right. Now, during this COVID, so if this was during that whole time, I'm sure does your immune system go down at all, where you just kind of felt like, oh no, when all the pandemic came out, were you afraid?
No, I was not. I believe in the human body and what it's designed to do. And our body is designed to fight things. I mean, I had been through it twice already with two major things. So when I first heard about this, I took a deep breath and said, all right, this is no different. Keep working the principles, keep the faith, keep the mind open, do the right things, as you had mentioned, right? The nutrition is important, the exercise, stress management. Oh my goodness, the stress levels from this. And so being out in nature for me is that tranquility, that time to just breathe fresh air and to just be in life and to celebrate, right? I was told I could never hike again, never run again, play tennis, things I love to do. And so when I'm there, those are victory dances for me. It's a celebratory moment. So, it's not beating it, but it's the victory of it. Go beyond just overcoming, but go to the victory, have that victory lap and celebrate life.
So,
yeah.
So here's where I'm curious, because the people that I know that have been on your path and have gone through Lyme disease, I can tell you that every single one of them, when they got the diagnosis, were relieved, because they were like, I'm not crazy. The doctors keep looking at me like there's something, like, what's wrong with this person? Because all our tests show nothing. I mean, Lyme is that tricky.
In your head.
And they are, and they're so relieved to know that yes, they found out what's wrong.
I understand.
So what I'm curious in is can you share some of your secrets and some, tell the path that you've traveled? Can you share some of the highlights so that people who are going to travel this path or are just beginning this path can navigate it in a positive, healthy, helpful way? Any tips or secrets or guidance you have, feel free to let them rip.
Yeah. So my Defy Your Diagnosis book is chock full of all kinds of encouragement and help and principles. But I personally know the emotional roller coaster that this is. So yes, I agree. I was relieved that's not in my head, but I was also pretty angry. I had something happen to me that I didn't cause. I didn't overeat. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. And yet I had this thing attack me and live inside of me. And so the emotional side of it, we have to address. And so I had to learn to process that anger. And some people, it might be sadness. But if we don't go through and move through the emotions, then that becomes its own illness of itself. And so I'd be out there hobbling, right? Because at the time when I had it, like I said, I could barely walk, but I still kept teaching my classes and running and hiking. And I was hobbling along and I'd be pow, 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 pow. And people like, what are you doing? I said, I'm beating and destroying this bacteria that's in my body. And it became very physical for me. I had to have this mindset of I'm going to conquer, I'm going to overcome, I'm going to eradicate. Language is going to be different for each person, but allow yourself some of those emotions, but don't get stuck in the anger or the sadness, because that's just energy. Use all your energy to move forward and move past what it is. And then again, don't allow somebody, medical professionals are people. They are not perfect and they're overworked now and barely able to do their jobs. So they're just a part of the puzzle. And again, when we find the right ones who want us to be healed, not medicated, we then can move forward. But, I had this one lady, she was a rheumatologist, right? And when I told her, I said, well, I'm not taking your drugs and I'm not doing your protocol. I'm going to reset my immune system. She slammed the door and she said, I hope you die.
Oh,
That's
This is a
how-
medical professional?
Yes, this is a doctor who was so angry that I was going to take her drugs that she wished me dead. So don't look at every professional like they're a god. They are not. They are imperfect people doing the best they can. And here is another hard truth. They are being trained by the pharmaceutical companies. They are not taught on Lyme disease about 2 weeks of all infectious diseases in their entire career and education. They don't know. They're still saying, well, you didn't have the bullseye's rash, so you don't have it. Well, okay, only 26% of people now get the rash. Everybody else, oh, well, sucks to be you. No, you have it. It's just getting misdiagnosed.
So here's a question for you. And I kind of grin, but there's that old joke that hospitals only make money when they're full. But
Yeah.
What tips or ideas do you have? You said you went through 30 doctors before one was able to accurately help you diagnose. And I happen to know that one of the biggest differences is the quality of the test, because the ones that they normally give you that the insurance pays for are cheap and they have a lot of false positives. But the actual test for Lyme disease and co-infections requires a significant investment. And as you say, insurance doesn't pay for it. But, in your case, it took you 6 years. What advice or guidance do you have for people that is there any questions that you would encourage them to ask, or protocols that you'd suggest that they follow so that they don't spend 6 years and have to talk to 30 different doctors before they can finally find out what they already know, which is that something's wrong with their health?
Yes, you have to be your own advocate. I was raised that doctors, you just didn't question them. And yet I had this thing inside of me saying something was wrong. So, 6 years was just getting the diagnosis. That didn't mean I was cured. I went through 3 years of hell to fight it and hopefully, come out the other side. So yes, don't waste your time. If you come into a doctor, I would always have some questions about alternative medicine. And if they absolutely said, well, that's hocus pocus, I said goodbye, because I'm not going to partner myself with someone who doesn't believe that there are all sorts of tools out there. It's not one or the other. I'm not against medical traditional side, but we also have a lot of natural alternatives, which is really what cured me. For those who have the Lyme disease, Cemento and Kumanda, combined with some of your traditional antibiotics, can really accelerate the process. But you get worse before you get better. And this is the hardest part. I've coached so many people through the years. You get worse before you get better. And so you've got to have a support system that's going to walk this with you. And, ask those questions of, do you see me being healed, or are you just, treating the symptoms? These are key questions to say, if they're just going to throw drugs at you, that's not what you're looking for. There are Lyme disease groups on social media now. It didn't exist when I was going through it. You could help, talk to some people, see what they would recommend as far as, people to go and to see.
Because it's interesting that you say that, because I happen to know a Lyme disease expert in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's how I know about this stuff. And I think what makes her different is that she actually has Lyme disease. So she has walked the path,
living it,
and she knows that exactly what you said, that a lot of the doctors aren't trained on it. A lot of them are still in denial. And if you look at the health departments and the CDC and the records in the state of Oklahoma, they act like Lyme disease does not exist. So
go to the Canadian CDC version. We have our head stuck in the sand. It's epidemic. It is now transmitting through mosquitoes, fleas. It is in every state except for Hawaii now. We're not talking about it. Go to the Canadian website and you will learn a lot more. And that's really where I got research that then gave me that wind beneath my wings to stand up, have a voice for myself to say, look, we need to rule this out, because I really do think this is what I have. And here's why. Here's tests that I found that actually would be accurate, like you said. So yes, back to my point, be your advocate, stand up for yourself. If that person doesn't feel right, then find someone else. But Lyme literate doctors are the best. Yes.
So could you talk a little bit about, and I know we kind of got off track just because when you told me Lyme, I'm like, that is, and what this tells me is we'll invite you back as a guest another time, because I know there's so much we could talk about. But But what
It
you just
is.
brought up is such an important topic that can help so many people. I didn't want to get off of that. So
Yes. And so, when we give my information at the end, people, please feel free to email me. My website has all kinds of blogs on this. So in the search bar, just type in Lyme's. You will get where to get the test. You will get my recommendation of Lyme literate doctors. You will get the protocols that I did and just a lot of helpful resources. One is called I Have Lyme Disease Now What? And it's kind of the point by point, step by step guide to help you.
actually, while you're on it, why don't you just tell us how do people go about reaching you? And feel free.
Yes. My website is my name. It's Lorraine Bosse-Smith.com. So LORRAINE-BOSSE-Smith.com. Sorry, that's so long. It's my
That's okay. I have a question for you on that too. So, and this goes in a conversation that I had with my girlfriend out in DC who has that as well. And it is such a big topic. So yes, we'll have to have you back on that. But what did you think that you had? I know there had to have been several different things that you thought you had, and everybody gets on Google and looks at their symptoms. What is it? What are a few things that you thought that you had?
Well, here's the ironic thing. I had been hiking in California and got covered in ticks. So 3 days later, I had the flu-like symptoms. I hurt, every joint was swollen, and I went, I have Lyme disease. And I went to the doctors and I was told, no, you're an idiot. No, it doesn't exist in California. And so I knew what I had, but I came in face to face with the brokenness of our medical society where they tell you, who are you? You're just a patient. You're just a stupid person. You don't know. I know better. You don't. Well, after years of being told I don't, meanwhile, combined with how bad I felt, I had the night sweats. I had the mental fog. I had the muscle fatigue where I couldn't even go up a couple flights of stairs. I mean, I had so many symptoms. And so you're beaten down physically, you're beaten down emotionally. And it took all that I had left to finally stand up to say, I know what I have, darn it. And we gotta take this on before it takes me out.
You have to think with all the symptoms that you had, all the different symptoms, and you were sick all the time, that has to put a toll on families, on relationships, everything. What did you have to deal with in that aspect?
Do you have any tips for others?
Yeah.
So I suffered in silence. Most people did not know what I was going through at the time. I was really good about taking it and putting it in a box, until, you run out of storage, right? And I don't recommend it because I didn't have support. I didn't have encouragement, and you need a good support group of people. And I caution, because some of the Lyme groups celebrate their illness. It's like they claim it. I'm a Lyme. And so being sick is their thing. And I didn't want to be sick. I wanted to be healthy. So make sure, again, you're finding supportive people who want to walk beside you and help you through it. My determination and my tenacity to just keep moving forward and my healthy lifestyle, I think, is really what kept me going, because it had already taken so much. I was like, I'm not going to give up the things I love. So here's a crazy thing. In the worst of my treatment, I hiked Mount Whitney.
Awesome.
Twice. And the reason why I did it is because I wanted to. And I said, if I give up one more thing and I surrender one more thing, I feel like I am dying. And so don't let go. Don't give up on the things you love, the things that you want to do. Maybe you have to adjust it. I went slow, but I did it. So, don't put your life on hold, trying to recover to try to have a life, right? Keep living day by day the best you can, but give yourself permission. I took lots of naps. I would do all of this stuff, and then I would have to crash and I'd have to recharge. Just give yourself permission to be gentle, but don't go easy on yourself. I hope they know the difference between that.
Awesome.
Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We hope to have you back.
Yes, thank you. Well, Defy Your Diagnosis deals with much more than just this. Here, it's relationships, It's that mindset that we have that keeps us from breaking through to truly being whatever we want to be.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks. And we want to thank everyone for watching. And you can find this podcast and many others at esrshow.com. And you can subscribe to our YouTube page there as well. Thanks so much. And we would like to thank our sponsor, Centrex Nutrition, for all their awesome proteins and supplements that they provide. You can check them out at centrex.com. Thanks so much and have a great one.